Hello Yeez Media family. Hello book lovers. How are you? Today we present to you the best book written by Brian Tracy titled The Power of Self-Confidence. Subscribe to the media, like and share the video, and if you have any comments on the story, leave them in the comments section. Thank you. Now directly to the narrative.
Chapter 6. Triumphing over Adversity. The miracle, or the power, that elevates the few to be found in their industry, application, and perseverance under the promptings of a brave, determined spirit. Mark Twain. True self-confidence comes from positive knowing, rather than positive thinking. Your goal should be to develop the kind of unshakable self-confidence that makes you an unstoppable force of nature. Your job is to take every step possible to make yourself so positive that you become irresistible and able to accomplish any goal that you set your mind to. One of the most important things you need is an absolute faith in your ability to overcome any adversity that the world can throw at you. Persistence is essential. Napoleon Hill wrote that persistence is to the character of man, as carbon is to steel. He also said that before success comes in any man's life he is sure to meet with much temporary defeat and, perhaps, some failure. When defeat overtakes a man, the easiest and most logical thing to do is quit. That is exactly what the majority of men do. In reality, your persistence is your measure of your belief in yourself and your ability to succeed. If you absolutely believe, without question, that if you persevere long enough and hard enough, you will ultimately win, then nothing will stop you. When you build within yourself this absolute assurance, then virtually anything becomes possible for you. Your self-confidence goes through the roof. The Reality Habit. Robert Ringer, in his best-selling book, $1 Million Habits, Fawcett, 1990, says that the most important of all the habits that lead to great achievement is what he calls the reality habit. It explains the attitudes of men and women who have achieved greatness in almost every field. Happy, successful people are intensely realistic. They do not allow themselves the luxury of self-delusion. They face the world as it is, rather than the way they wish it would be. They accept the unalterable facts of life as given, and they work and plan their activities around them. In learning how to triumph over adversity, the application of the reality principle is to simply accept that problems are inevitable. Problems, setbacks, and disappointments are an unavoidable reality of life. Your ability to deal with these difficulties has as much to do with your self-confidence as any other factor. The test of character. It's easy to feel good about yourself and to have high levels of self-confidence when everything is going well, but the true test of a man or woman is when you can keep your head and continue to function when things seem to be falling down around you, and everyone else is discouraged and often blaming it on you. These are the times when you really show the kind of stuff you are made of. The Stanford University Business School conducted extensive research into the qualities of a man or woman that mark him or her for advancement into the executive suite, and ultimately, to the position of President and Chief Executive Officer. They used a variety of questionnaires, surveys, and tests, going back to when an individual first joined a large company, to find ways to predict which people would be most likely to rise to the top of a large organization. After examining dozens of qualities, they were finally able to isolate two qualities that were most predictive of executive success, in terms of assuring that the organization under their control would continue to survive and thrive in a dynamic and competitive world. Play well on the team. The first quality they identified was the ability to perform well as a member of a team, and the ability to put together teams to accomplish common objectives. All the business and the interpersonal skills that make a person valuable to an organization seem to be demonstrated in a team setting. This quality was relatively easy to observe and measure over the course of a person's career. Crisis management. The second quality they identified was harder to measure, even though it was absolutely indispensable for long-term, high-level success. This quality was the ability to function well in a crisis. Napoleon called this 4 o'clock in the morning courage, the kind of courage that is instantly available to a person woken up at that time, who has no time to prepare mentally and emotionally for a crisis. He called this the rarest form of courage, and, in his conclusion, very few people had it. In military terms, they call this being under fire. A question that all soldiers, sailors, and airmen wonder about is how they and others will perform under fire. They know that this is the ultimate test of the character and training of an individual. Organizations know that, often, their very survival will depend on how well an individual deals with the inevitable, unexpected reversal of fortune. The Stanford study concluded that, although this quality was hard to measure, because a real crisis could not be anticipated or created for test purposes, it was still critical in predicting success in the higher levels of the business reversals of fortune. This is also true for you. Your self-esteem and self-confidence is closely tied to your deep inner feeling about your ability to be effective when faced with problems and difficulties that hit you like a punch in the solar plexus. It is your ability to pick yourself up from the mat and keep on swinging that is the real measure of what you are made of. One of my favorite poems is The Quitter by Robert W. Service. There is a verse in that poem that goes like this. You're sick of the game, well that's a shame. You're young and you're strong and you're bright. You've had a raw deal. I know, but don't squeal. Buck up, do your damnedest and fight. It's the plugging away that will win you the day. So don't be a piker, old pard. Just draw on your grit, it's easy to quit. It's the keeping your chin up that's hard. The quality of your entire personality is affected by how you deal with adversity, how well you keep your chin up. Successful and self-confident people are not those who do not have problems, they are merely those who deal with their problems in a more effective way than the average person. B.C. Forbes, the founder of Forbes magazine, wrote that history has demonstrated that the most notable winners usually encounter heartbreaking obstacles before they triumphed. They won because they refused to become discouraged by their defeat. So can you. The challenge response theory. In 1952, historian Arnold Toynbee was nominated for the Nobel Prize, largely as the result of his work in studying the life cycles of civilizations. He estimated that, in human history, there had been 21 great civilizations, 20 of which had broken down over time. He considered the American civilization to be the 21st. His writings were meant to illuminate and give guidance to modern historians and politicians so that they could better assure the survival and success of their nations, and in the case of the United States, the perpetuation of the American Republic. Toynbee postulated what he called the challenge response theory of history. He said that every large civilization began as a small group of people that eventually found itself facing a challenge from the outside. In most cases, this challenge was composed of enemy forces bent on its destruction. However, in some cases, the challenges came from the weather or geography. Deal with the challenge effectively. When faced with a challenge, if the small group of people responded in a positive and constructive way, they would overcome the challenge and, in so doing, they would grow. In growing, this group, or tribe would trigger another, even larger challenge, usually aggression from other tribes. Once again, the group would have to reorganize itself internally to face the even larger challenge. If it again responded in a positive and constructive way, and overcame the challenge, it would continue to grow. At each stage of growth, the size of the tribe, nation, or state would trigger ever greater challenges. At each stage, as long as the civilization continued to respond effectively to the challenge, it continued to grow. The turning point came when the civilization no longer had the will or ability to rise to the challenge of the time, and as a result, it began to decline and was eventually swept away by the events of history. All civilizations eventually decline. Sometimes, as in the case of the Roman civilization, it took several hundred years before Rome faded as a major Mediterranean power. Once the Roman people became addicted to bread and circuses and various forms of government welfare and handouts, they lost their will to resist the external challenges represented by the barbarian tribes from the north. Sometimes, the civilization fell rather quickly. In less than 5 years from his landing at Veracruz, Cortés was able to destroy the foundation of the Aztec civilization that had endured for hundreds of years. The centuries-old Austro-Hungarian Empire, weakened from within, fell apart in the 4 short years of World War I, and it never recovered. However long the period of decline, the critical event was always the loss of will and the inability to rise to the external threat or difficulty. Toynbee concluded that with very few exceptions, civilizations decline from within before they are conquered from without. The story of your life. The reason that Toynbee's theory is so relevant to us is that it explains much of our lives. No matter how well our parents protect us while we are growing up, sooner or later we face challenges and difficulties in our relationships, our work, and in our other activities. Each time we face one of these external challenges, we have the choice of either responding positively and constructively, or of letting it overwhelm us. If we choose deliberately to respond in a positive and constructive way, to keep our minds calm and cool, and deal effectively with the inevitable problem, we learn and grow and become stronger. Our self-confidence goes up. Our belief in our ability to achieve our goals increases. Our self-esteem rises. We develop a better self-image and we become more self-assured, confident, and optimistic. The rise and fall of a business. Every small and large company goes through the same cycle of challenge and response. If a small company is capable of rising to the inevitable setbacks and reversals it experiences, it continues to grow, and in so doing, it triggers even greater challenges, reversals, and setbacks. Peter Drucker said, "A company stays in business as long as it continues to make enough money to pay for its mistakes." One business consultant estimated that, every 3 months, a small business has a crisis that, if not responded to properly, will lead to the collapse of the enterprise. You and I are similar to small businesses in many respects. Fortunately, an inability to respond will not lead to something as final as a business collapse. However, if for any reason, we don't get on top of the challenges but instead let them get on top of us, our self-esteem and self-confidence will decrease, and our ability to deal with subsequent difficulties will diminish dramatically. Your responses determine your future. Almost everything that happens to you is determined by your responses to the ups and downs of daily life. Your responses are the result of everything you have learned and experienced over time. Thomas Huxley said, "Experience is not what happens to a man, it is what a man does with what happens to him." Your life, and everything about you, is demonstrated in the way you react. It's not in what happens to you, it is how you respond to it. This is why the Stanford study was quite clear about this quality when it stated that the proven ability to function in a crisis is the absolute prerequisite for promotion to a senior position. In a way, what we are really talking about here is character. One of your aims in life should be to develop your character, to become a better, finer, and stronger human being. The development of character, essential to your long-term happiness and well-being, requires that you go through the crucible of setback and temporary defeat and emerge victorious. Problems and difficulties come unbidden. You probably make every effort to organize your life in such a way that you minimize the unexpected and usually unpleasant surprises that may occur. You use your intelligence, education, and experience to arrange your life and affairs so that you avoid adversity wherever and whenever possible. You probably plan and prepare carefully in advance to assure that things go smoothly, at home and at work. You are especially careful with your health and with the well-being of members of your family. You are thoughtful about the things that you can do to assure a greater likelihood of success in your business or career. You lock doors, insure properly, drive carefully, and otherwise reduce your potential exposure to unhappy events. Almost everyone does this, except for those who are thoughtless and irresponsible. Yet, in spite of making every effort to avoid adversity, you experience adversity nonetheless. Adversity comes to you unbidden. You tend to be blindsided by adversity. It befalls you in spite of your very best efforts to the contrary. Adversity and character development. In the absence of adversity, however, you cannot develop a stronger character. You cannot become a better person. You cannot develop resilience, perseverance, and resoluteness of personality. You cannot develop into the kind of person who enjoys high levels of self-confidence, and a feeling that you can meet and master whatever you are faced with. You cannot grow stronger without the adversity that you so conscientiously avoid. Caught in this conundrum, you have only one choice. You can choose, in advance, to be equal to the occasion. Ann Landers summed it up beautifully. In these words, if I were asked to give what I consider the single most useful bit of advice for all humanity, it would be this: expect trouble as an inevitable part of life, and when it comes, hold your head high, look it squarely in the eye and say, I will be bigger than you cannot defeat me. Your responsibility is the key. Frederick Robertson said, it is not the situation that makes the man, but the man who makes the situation. It is not what happens to you, but how you respond to what happens to you, that determines your whole life. In the responses chosen are contained the determining factors of human greatness or depravity. Great men and women are simply those who have responded well when the chips were down, and the rest is history. Dr. Abraham Zalesnik of Harvard is one of the few people who has ever done extensive research into the subject of disappointment. What he found, in studying the way that different people respond to disappointment, was that you could largely tell how high and how far a person was going to go in life by simply observing how they reacted when they faced frustration and setbacks in reaching their goals. Dr. Zalesnik found that the great majority of people do not prepare mentally for the inevitable disappointments that come in life, and when they arrive, they tend to be taken off guard and emotionally overwhelmed. They then generalize these disappointments and allow themselves to feel that, because they have not succeeded, they are not really very good at what they do. They tend to interpret these disappointments as being indicative of their lack of ability and competence. As a result, they become easily disappointed in themselves, and they lose the courage and confidence that they need to press forward. Often they become depressed, and in the majority of cases, they gradually give up. They stop setting goals and working on themselves, and become more concerned about security and potential loss than about taking chances and potential gain. Responding well to disappointment. The high achievers in his study responded to disappointment very differently from the low achievers. First, they mentally prepared for a disappointment in advance, so that when it arrived, they had already given some thought to how they would react and to the possible courses of action open to them. They regard a particular setback as being specific to a particular situation, and not being indicative of a general lack of ability or of a character flaw. More than anything else, top men and women had developed a series of mental tools that they used almost automatically whenever things went wrong for them. Crisis anticipation. Napoleon Bonaparte is considered by historians to have been perhaps the most brilliant battlefield general in human history. In a military career spanning 25 years and involving hundreds of battles, large and small, he lost only 3 battles. It was said that his very presence on the battlefield was worth an additional 40,000 soldiers to the French army because of the boost in morale that it gave them. Napoleon was famous for taking the time to study the battlefield and to think through every possible eventuality of the pending battle. He prepared with no illusions and with an attitude that dealt with the worst possibilities and reverses that could occur. When the battle was underway, and confusion reigned everywhere, a steady stream of messengers and officers would come to him with news and messages, requesting instructions on what to do next. His responses were always clear, concise, and immediate. No matter what happened, he had an order and an answer at the tip of his tongue. The reason for this, and what helped to make him the master of all of Europe, was because he had thought everything through in advance. Advanced thinking and planning. This book, The Power of Self-Confidence, is meant to be practical and helpful to you. In the coming pages, I will share with you some of the best mental tools used by the most effective men and women in our society to cope with adversity. What I suggest is that you study them, turn them over in your mind, and review them regularly until they become an automatic part of your thought processes. When they do, I promise that you will take a giant step toward becoming unstoppable and toward enjoying the high levels of self-confidence that are possible for you. The concept of failure. The first mental technique is for you to reassess your entire attitude toward the concept of failure. You know that the fear of failure is the greatest single obstacle to success and happiness in adult life. You also know that this is a conditioned response that originated in early childhood as the result of destructive criticism and other mistakes that your parents made in bringing you up. Fortunately, it is a learned fear, and because of this, it can be unlearned, thereby freeing you from the fears that hold you back and giving you the self-confidence that propels you forward. The starting point of eliminating this fear is for you to accept and realize that no success is possible without failure. All success is preceded by failure. Usually great failure, repeated over a long period of time. Abraham Lincoln was considered one of the great failures of American politics, a man who lost his business, lost his sweetheart, and was defeated for election over and over again. However, by learning from every defeat, he won the final election and became one of the most important and respected presidents we have ever had. As Stanley Judd wrote, "Don't be afraid to fail. Don't waste energy trying to cover up failure. Learn from your failures and go on to the next challenge. It's okay to fail. If you are not failing, you are not growing. Double your rate of failure. You only learn how to succeed by failing, and no success is possible without it." A young journalist who asked him how he could be more successful faster once visited Thomas J. Watson. Watson, the founder of IBM, replied with these wonderful words, "Do you want to be successful? Then, double your rate of failure." Success lies on the far side of failure. Every man or woman of great achievement has been, at one time, a magnificent failure. The greatest successes of our generation and of our history books are the stories of men and women who failed so many times that they finally learned how to succeed. On the David Susskind show some years ago, they had 4 men who had all become entrepreneurial millionaires before the age of 35. They were asked, during a break, to add up and calculate the total number of different businesses that they had started or tried before they found the business in which they made their fortunes. It turned out that the 4 men had started an average of 17 businesses each, an average of 16 of which had been unsuccessful, but it was the 17th business that had made them rich. Now the obvious question is this: did those young men fail in each of their previous business enterprises? The answer is clear. They did not fail. They were learning how to succeed. Their previous business enterprises were the testing grounds at which they learned the lessons necessary to achieve financial independence later. Our greatest inventor, Thomas Edison, was the most successful inventor of the 20th century, or of any century. He developed not only the electric light bulb, but the electric power company that made it possible to sell and deliver electric current and sell electric light bulbs to every city, town, and village in America. He patented more than 1,000 devices at the U.S. Patent Office, almost all of which were brought into commercial production within his lifetime. Our way of life, and the way of life of almost everyone in the world, has been profoundly affected by his successes in the area of invention. However, Thomas Edison was also an extraordinary failure as an inventor. He failed more times than any other inventor of his age. He failed thousands and thousands of times in attempting to find the proper filament for the first electric light bulb. He failed thousands of times more in attempting to find the proper plant from which to draw natural rubber. In his laboratories at what is now known as General Electric, he brought together some of the finest scientific minds of the age so that they could dramatically increase the number and speed of their failures. Success is a numbers game. Edison knew that success is a numbers game. It is based on intelligent effort and the law of probabilities. If you try enough different things in enough different ways, and you learn from each test or failure, then you must inevitably be successful. The fear of failure, on the other hand, causes people to try fewer and fewer things, thereby lowering the probability that they will ever achieve anything of consequence. In the same year that Babe Ruth hit more home runs than any other batter in America, he also struck out more than any other batter. When the ball was thrown, he swung with every ounce of strength he had, often spinning around and falling down on the ground as a result of his efforts. However, he also set an American baseball record that was not broken for decades, and he became a legend we still talk about today. Henry Ford, who was bankrupt at the age of 40 and who went on to become one of the world's richest men, wrote, "Failure is just another opportunity to more intelligently begin again." Dr. Joyce Brothers wrote that the person interested in success has to learn to view failure as a healthy, inevitable part of the process of getting to the top. Learn from every failure. Your job is not to fear failure or to avoid failure so much that you also avoid success. Your job instead is to move forward and take intelligent risks, thinking them through in advance and learning everything you can as you go along. Zig Ziglar said that you can tell how high a building is going to be by looking at how deep they dig the foundation, the height to which you rise in. Life will always be determined by the depth of your own personal foundation, which is almost always the quality and quantity of your failures, and what you have become as a result of them. Napoleon Hill wrote, "When defeat comes, accept it as a signal that your plans are not sound, rebuild those plans and set sail once more toward your coveted goal." Dale Carnegie wrote, "The successful man will profit from his mistakes and try again in a different way." The starting point of triumphing over adversity is to overcome the fear of failure, to the point at which you are willing to proceed boldly in the direction of your dreams. Whatever your emotions, fear, or desire, they control your decisions in everything you do. When you write down clear goals and make detailed plans for their accomplishment, and then think about your goals all the time, you build up within yourself the white-hot heat of desire that can eventually become so powerful that it overcomes any fear of failure that might hold you back. The more you think, talk, and write about your goals, the more determined you become to make them a reality, and the more likely it is that you will push yourself forward to overcome the fears that might hold you back. Plan for the future. The second mental technique you can use to deal with adversity is called crisis anticipation, and it refers to your ability to think. Your mind is the most powerful tool that you have with which to apprehend reality. Everything you feel and all your reactions are initially determined by how you think about any subject. If you change the quality of your thinking, you change the quality of your life. This begins by applying your ability to think to your existing situation. Crisis anticipation is the exercise of looking down the road, 6 to 12 months, and making a list of everything that could go wrong in the areas that are important to you. It is similar to what Napoleon did in anticipation of an upcoming battle. If you're in business, make a list of all the problems that might arise that could threaten the survival of your business. If you're in sales, make a list of all the things that could happen that could dramatically decrease your sales volume. With regard to your family, or even when considering a family vacation, make a list of all of the unexpected events that could occur that would derail your plans and goals. Spread the risk. In one business I worked with, the owner found that more than 60% of the sales were coming from 2 of the 11 salespeople. If one of those people quit or worse, went to work for a competitor, the company's sales volume would decline dramatically, and its ability to survive might actually be threatened. Once the owner was clear about this, he immediately began an intensive sales training program for all his people. Simultaneously, he began recruiting and looking for better salespeople while making arrangements to encourage his poor performers to go elsewhere. Within 6 months, no single sales person accounted for more than 15% of the business. And when it happened that one of his previous top salespeople did decide to leave, the business was able to absorb the temporary drop in productivity and continue to grow. What could go wrong? What are the likely crises that might occur in your life? What if interest rates doubled, or your business dropped by 50%? What if your best-selling products stopped selling or your best customers stopped buying? In what areas are you overly dependent on someone or something else for your continuing success? And what steps could you take, starting today, to guard against a crisis, should it occur? You will be amazed at how much more self-confidence you have when you have thought through the critical areas of your life and made plans in case something goes wrong. Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor of Germany, was considered to be one of the finest statesmen of the century. He was famous for always having what came to be called a plan B for every situation. No matter what happened, and no matter how hard he had worked to bring about a particular result, if he was not successful, he could always reach into his drawer and pull out a fully developed backup plan ready to go. This habit of preparing for the unforeseen outcome led to him becoming one of the most powerful statesmen in Europe. Become intensely solution-oriented. Think about the solution, about what can be done rather than what has happened and who is to blame. Don't waste a minute being upset or angry about something that has happened that cannot be changed. Consciously choose the future over the past. Become intensely solution-oriented rather than problem-oriented. Think about what can be done immediately to resolve the difficulty. Look for the valuable lesson you can learn from this situation. Think how you can minimize the damages and maximize any opportunities that might arise out of this setback. As Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher, once said, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger." The only real antidote to worry and negativity is positive, purposeful, constructive action in the direction of your goals. As soon as you take action, your self-esteem and self-confidence start to increase again. You begin to feel more in control of your emotions and of your life. You stop making excuses. And you start making progress. You start thinking about how you can turn this situation to your advantage. Never consider the possibility of failure. In the final analysis, you triumph over adversity by having clear values, clear goals and plans, and complete control over your mind and your thinking. You win by thinking about winning all the time and refusing to consider the possibility of losing. You win by resolving to persist, no matter what the odds, no matter what happens, until you succeed. You recognize that persistence is a form of courage. It is the courage to endure in the face of adversity and disappointment, and it is the one quality that guarantees that ultimately you will be successful. Calvin Coolidge, President of the United States, summed this up when he wrote, "Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent." Courage and persistence. Persistence is self-discipline in action. Each time you exert the self-discipline to persist in the face of adversity and disappointment, your self-esteem goes up. When you practice persistence, you build up your resistance to taking the easy way out. You create the friction that comes from going against your natural tendencies. You generate the heat that crystallizes your character at a new higher level. And with this higher level of persistence, self-discipline, and character, your self-esteem, self-respect, and personal pride increase. Your belief in yourself serves as a deep foundation of confidence on which you build a great life. You become more positive, more optimistic, and more unstoppable in everything you do. You do this because, as Churchill said, you never give up, never give up. Action exercises. 1. Identify one major adversity that you dealt with and recovered from. What did you learn that has helped you to become a better person? 2. Determine the worst possible thing that could happen in your business or career. What could you do now to minimize the negative effects if it did occur? 3. What are the 3 worst things that could happen in your personal and family life, and what could you do to prepare against them? 4. What are the 3 biggest mistakes you have made, and what did you learn from each one? 5. What is the most effective way you could respond to your biggest problem today? 6. In what areas should you be prepared to take action and move forward, rather than playing it safe? 7. What one action will you take immediately to face your fears and move forward to the achievement of one of your most important goals? Chapter 7. Self-confidence in action. Above all, be of a single aim, have a legitimate and useful purpose, and devote yourself unreservedly to it. James Allen. One of the most valuable exercises you can engage in, to accomplish any goal you can set for yourself, is to ask yourself, what is my limiting step? What is the one factor that determines the speed at which I achieve my goal? Or whether I achieve it at all? Your ability to identify your limiting step is one of the best demonstrations of your intelligence. Your capacity to eliminate this limiting step is one of the best demonstrations of your overall competence in achieving anything you want. Self-confidence is critical in studying everything that has been written or said about personal success. The conclusion I came to was that your level of self-confidence is probably the critical factor in everything you accomplish. When you have enough self-confidence, you will try almost anything. Because success is largely a matter of averages, or probabilities, the more things you try, the more likely it is that you will achieve greatly. For many years, Amoco Petroleum was famous among oil companies for having consistently developed and maintained higher levels of oil and gas reserves than any other major oil company. The president of Amoco was asked why his company was so successful in this area. He replied simply that we drill more holes. They didn't purport to be better or smarter than their competitors. They just focused on drilling more wells, and by the law of averages, they ended up drilling more successful wells and becoming one of the most profitable oil companies in the world. Try more things. The same is true for you. When you set more goals, try more things, engage in more activities, and explore more opportunities, your probabilities of success increase dramatically. The only real limiting step that you might have is your level of self-confidence. When you reach the point at which you believe in yourself absolutely, the barriers that exist in your external world will not stop you. The major obstacles to success always lie within the mind of the individual. They are not contained in external circumstances, situations, or people. As soon as you win the inner battle, the outer battle seems to take care of itself. The development of self-confidence has been the turning point in my own life. The reason I feel so strongly about the subject is because of what it has meant to me. The development of greater self-confidence has enabled me to go from rags to riches, from limited means and worries about money to national and international renown. I have been able to go from living in a small, rented, one-bedroom apartment and being deeply in debt, to living in a beautiful home on a golf course and driving a new Mercedes. An inauspicious beginning. Talent and ambition have been very helpful, but without the development of self-confidence, my inborn abilities would have lain dormant and unused, as they did for many years. Before I gained enough self-confidence to commit completely to my goals, I was going nowhere with my life. I started with few advantages. I came from a home with 3 younger brothers, and while I was growing up, we never seemed to have any money. My father was a good man, but he was not always employed. I remember from my earliest days that we could never afford anything. My mother used to dress us by buying used clothes from the Goodwill and the St. Vincent de Paul rescue missions. We would wear pants and shirts that had been given away by other families. Sometimes the kids at school recognized that the clothes I was wearing were their old clothes that their parents had given away. Christmas and birthdays were not occasions of great celebration. We had little to give and little to share. Early behavior problems. I became a behavior problem at an early age. I see now that I was just rebelling against my upbringing, but at the time, I was a real problem for everyone around me. I was constantly being kicked out of classes for misbehavior. I was suspended or expelled from 4 schools during my junior high and high school years. I had the sorry distinction of being the worst behaved kid in school, with more detentions, demerits, and failed classes than any other kid in the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. I learned later that my teachers had voted me the most likely to end up in prison. I began working at a young age. I worked at a part-time job, and then full-time jobs to earn my own money, buy my own clothes, and eventually get my own car. I worked as a dishwasher in a small hotel for 8 hours a day during my 12th grade year, and, although I didn't drop out of high school, I failed out. Failure from the beginning. I continued going to school until the year was over, but I failed 6 out of my last 7 courses. During the graduation ceremonies, they allowed me to go up on the stage in a gown, in front of the audience, and receive a certificate from the principal. The person in front of me received a diploma. The person in back of me also received a diploma. What I got was a leaving certificate. A leaving certificate is just a polite way for the school to say, goodbye. Please don't ever come back. Laboring jobs. While many of my friends who had graduated from high school went on to university to complete their educations, I began working at laboring jobs. Over the next few years, I worked as a dishwasher and a kitchen helper. I worked in sawmills and factories. I worked on construction crews and as a laborer. In one job, I dug wells. That's when you start from the ground level and work down, rather than up. I worked at washing cars and as a galley boy on a ship. I worked in gas stations and as a mechanic's helper. When I answered employment ads in the paper, I never even got a reply from anyone. My job applications were just thrown in the wastebasket. When I was 23 years old, I was an itinerant farm worker, sleeping on the hay in the farmer's barn, and getting up when it was pitch black to eat with the farmer's family before the workday started. Selling from door to door. In my mid-20s, I was still drifting, and in order to eat, I began selling office supplies from door to door. I did poorly. From there, I went to selling other things. I remember making calls for an entire month without making a single sale. I lived on loans and charity from family and friends. I had virtually no possessions, very few clothes even, no money, no high school diploma, no marketable skills, and no experience of any real value to anyone. I was going nowhere fast. Meanwhile, all around me, I saw people my own age, and younger, who were doing well. They were wearing nice clothes, driving nice cars, and working at well-paying jobs. They were moving onward and upward in their careers. They had offices and some of them had staffs. Several of them had gotten married and had homes and families and cars and furniture and what appeared to be pretty good lives. The big question. From the age of 15, I had been wondering why it was that some people were more successful than others. Although I wasn't making much progress on the outside, I continued to read and search for the answers to this question, and I began to experiment with some of the ideas I discovered. My first turning point came when I realized that my problems at school and in getting along with other people were as a direct result of my own personality. I realized that, if I wanted things to change, I would have to change. I began to understand that my unhappiness and anger and frustration at my childhood experiences had caused me to develop a negative personality that turned many people off. I accepted that any change that was going to take place had to begin with me, and it was up to me alone. No one was going to do it for me. No one would help me. No one else really cared. If I wanted to be successful and popular with others, I would have to go to work on myself and become a different person. The big turning point. The second turning point came for me when I was poor and 20 years old. Living in a one-bedroom apartment and working at a laboring job during the day. I realized that I was completely responsible for my life and everything that happened to me from then on. If I wasn't happy with my income, my work, my education, or my future prospects, it was up to me to go to work on myself and make the necessary changes. They wouldn't happen by themselves. The importance of goals. The third turning point came for me when I discovered the importance of setting goals and of making clear decisions about what I really wanted in each area of my life. When I first stumbled across the subject of goals, I thought they were something that they had in sports. The idea of setting them for myself wasn't quite believable. I had so many problems and excuses that I felt that goal setting was really just an exercise in futility. It might be a pleasant entertainment, but nothing would come of it, considering my situation. Because I had low self-esteem and limited self-confidence, the first goals I set were not very high. They were consistent with what we talked about in Chapter 2 of this book, but I looked on the exercise as more of an entertainment than as an important stepping stone to success. I remember sitting in someone else's cheap hotel room many years ago. I took out a piece of hotel stationery, wrote out a series of goals, put deadlines on them, and then made a simple plan for accomplishing them. I promptly lost the sheet of paper, but exactly 31 days later, just as I had written, and as the result of a remarkable series of coincidences, my goals were all achieved. I was in my 20s at the time, and I still remember the feeling of astonishment I had at that time. I felt that I had learned about a secret power that I could use to accomplish almost anything. 3 great ideas. I had learned 3 important ideas. First, accept complete responsibility for yourself and for everything that you are and ever will be. Second, accept that you can change your situation only by going to work on yourself and learning the things you need to know to be better. Third, set clear goals with timelines for the things you want and then work every day to bring those goals into Reality. For the next few years, I used these ideas sporadically. Each time I did, I would experience a burst of success and progress. As soon as I achieved a modicum of success, I would abandon these ideas and go back to simply reacting and responding to whatever happened on a daily basis. It took me several years before I finally began practicing these ideas consistently, along with many others that I've mentioned in this program. I then began to get results in a systematic and consistent way. We sabotage ourselves. I learned later that our natural tendency is to work hard until we find a method or technique that works for us, whether in life, work, or relationships. And then, for some perverse reason, we promptly abandon the technique and go back to behaving in our old way, in a random and haphazard manner. A mental exercise program, like goal setting and positive thinking, is very much like a physical exercise program. If you expect it to really work for you, you have to practice it persistently, every day, and keep at it indefinitely. When I began to apply these proven success principles to my life, and worked on them every day, I was able to bring about almost miraculous changes in every area of my life. Here's the point. I learned, in retrospect, that the reason that I suffered so many frustrations and drifted away from using these principles so often was because I lacked self-confidence. My conscious mind told me that these principles made sense. However, my subconscious mind, my storehouse of memories and emotions and previous experiences, was telling me that I wasn't good enough and that success was not really for me. As my friend Ziglar says, I was engineered for success but programmed for failure. I wanted success on the outside, but I didn't believe I was capable of it on the inside. You can develop any quality. The fourth turning point for me, and the reason that I have written this book for you, was my discovery that I could develop any quality that I thought was necessary for my success and happiness. I learned that, by hard work and repetition, I could overcome and override my feelings of inferiority and undeservedness and build up my feelings of self-esteem and self-confidence. I could identify and then alleviate my own bottlenecks or limiting steps. By working on myself every day, I could build myself up into the high-achieving, happy person that I really wanted to be. By taking my foot off my own subconscious brakes and putting them onto my conscious accelerator, I could begin to move ahead rapidly in life. The key, the spark plug, was the conscious and purposeful development and maintenance of high levels of self-confidence, and the self-esteem that goes with it. The secret of success. Every successful man or woman that I have ever talked to or read about has come to pretty much the same conclusion. By every measure, you have more talent and ability than you could use in 100 lifetimes. You, too, can step on the accelerator of your own potential and begin moving forward at a speed that will amaze you. Many people who have listened to my programs or gone through my seminars have come back to me and told me that they cannot believe how fast their lives began to improve when they began to apply these principles on a daily basis. The 4Ds of success and self-confidence. How do you infuse your whole life with the kind of self-confidence that makes everything possible for you? The answer is contained in what I call the 4Ds, which determine success in anything you really want to accomplish. The first D is desire. You must really want to become a totally self-confident human being. You must build up your desire by thinking about it, and talking about it, and working on it all the time. Your desire must become so intense that it overrides your fears of failure, rejection, and inferiority, and it becomes the dominant emotion governing your behaviors. Intense desire is the starting point of all personality modification and goal attainment. The second D is decision. You must make a do-or-die decision that you will go to work on yourself and keep at it until you achieve the kind of self-confidence that enables you to do, be, and say whatever you want. You must burn your mental bridges. Many people want things but they never make the clear, unequivocal decision that they are going to do what it takes to get them. The third D is determination. Once you have started to make significant changes in the way you act, your internal gyroscope will try to take over and bring you back into your comfort zone, into your old ways of acting. Sometimes, progress will be slow, and, often, you will see no progress at all. Nonetheless, you must persist in the positive and constructive behaviors that you know will lead to making you into the kind of person you wish to become. Your determination must be as unshakable as the self-confidence you desire. The fourth D is discipline. Underlying and surrounding all great achievement in life is the quality of self-discipline. This is the ability to make yourself do what you should do, when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. Every practice of self-discipline strengthens your discipline in every other area of your life. As Napoleon Hill said, after more than 20 years of research into the lives of successful men and women, self-discipline is the master key to riches. It is self-discipline that makes everything else possible. If you have the desire to change, the decisiveness to take action, the determination to persist on your forward track, and the discipline to make yourself do whatever you need to do, your self-confidence and your success are inevitable. Positive knowing versus positive thinking. We said earlier that self-confidence comes from positive knowing rather than from just positive thinking or hoping. It is only when you have a firm conviction or belief in your abilities, based on experience, that you really know that your self-confidence is not an act. This is why every act of self-confidence builds your self-confidence. Every success you experience builds your self-confidence and your ability to achieve further successes. Every mental exercise that you engage into improve and strengthen your personality builds your self-confidence. Everything that you learn and practice from the lives of other self-confident people improves your own self-image, increases your self-esteem, and raises your self-confidence. The Gallup Success Survey. Some years ago, in the mid-1980s, the Gallup organization conducted one of the most extensive surveys into the reasons for success ever conducted in America. They selected 1,500 men and women whose names and biographies had appeared in Marquis Who's Who in America, the most prestigious register of noteworthy individuals in the country. They asked them, at great length, what they felt were the reasons why they had become so well known and respected in their lifetimes. This group included Nobel Prize winners, university presidents, heads of Fortune 500 corporations, leading academics, writers, inventors, entrepreneurs, and even a high school football coach, a man who continued to have a significant impact on the lives and personalities of the young people he trained. 5 essential success qualities. After many months of research and interviews, they were able to isolate the 5 most important qualities for success and self-confidence in America. Their findings turned out to be consistent with virtually all the other research that's been done in this area. Common sense. The first and most important success quality was defined as common sense. It is said that the average person has an enormous amount of common sense because he or she hasn't used any of it yet. Common sense seems to be something that a person accumulates as the result of experience over a long period of time. Common sense was defined by the participants in this survey as the ability to cut to the core of a matter, to recognize and deal with the essential elements of a problem or a situation, rather than getting sidetracked by smaller issues or symptoms. Another definition of common sense was the ability to learn from experience and then to apply those lessons to subsequent experiences. Common sense was seen as a core quality that enabled a person to become increasingly more effective over time. Wisdom is essential. Perhaps another word for common sense is wisdom. Aristotle once defined wisdom as an equal combination of experience plus reflection. He suggested that you need to, first, have the experience and, second, take an equal amount of time to think about what happened to you and what you could learn from it. You are far, far wiser than you know. In fact, based on your experience, you probably have the ability to be far more effective than you are just by applying what you have already learned. The problem for most people is that they simply do not take enough time for reflection. They do not take the time to sit, write, think, and dialogue with others about their experiences. Socrates once said that, we only learn something by dialoguing about it. You only really understand something to the degree to which you can discuss it with others or explain it to a third party. Your ability to translate your experience into words, which only comes through thinking and reflection, is essential for your growth and wisdom and common sense. Gain additional knowledge. I would add one more ingredient to Aristotle's definition of wisdom, and that would be knowledge. Wisdom comes from equal parts knowledge, experience, and reflection. First you learn, then you practice what you learn. Then you take time to think about what happened. When you turn off the television or radio, or put down the newspaper, and begin spending more time talking and thinking about what has happened to you, you begin to grow at an exponential rate. 2 magic questions. Perhaps the 2 best questions I have learned for personal growth are these. After every experience, successful or unsuccessful, stop and do an instant replay of the experience, preferably on paper, and ask yourself first, what did I do right? And second, what would I do differently? If you take a piece of paper and write at the top of the page, what did I do right? And then write down every single part of the experience that you did correctly, you will be accelerating your development of common sense. By analyzing your immediate past performance, like football players do on video, you will find yourself improving at a rapid rate. The very fact that you take time to reflect will cause you to improve in the areas you pay attention to. When you ask, what would I do differently? You begin to see all kinds of possibilities for improvement. The wonderful thing about these 2 questions is that the answers to both are positive and constructive. And when you dwell on the positive, constructive parts of your performance, present and future, these ideas sink deeper into your subconscious mind and program you to act in a manner consistent with that information the next time out. Review your performance. One famous football coach would sit down with his better players and replay videos of their last games. He showed them running or passing or catching on the video, but without comment. The players, whose egos were very sensitive, were quite aware of their mistakes and weaknesses. Nothing needed to be said. As a result of reviewing the videos together, the players became better and better, and the coach was seen to be a great builder of men. After every sales call or interview, do an instant replay, alone or with someone else, and ask yourself quickly, what did I do right? And what would I do differently? You will be amazed at what you see and how fast you begin to improve. This simple method will probably assure that you make more progress in 1 month than the average person makes in a year, or even 2 years. Just try it for 1 day and prove it to yourself. Be good at what you do. The second quality for success and self-confidence that came out of the study was that of expertise. I talked about this at great length in Chapter 3. Most successful, happy men and women are very good at what they do, and they know they are very good. They have learned and practiced and reflected and gotten better and better until they are recognized by their peers as being among the very best in their fields. This feeling of being the best is an absolute prerequisite for deep and lasting self-confidence. Self-reliance. The third quality identified in the study was that of self-reliance. Men and women who are respected by others tend to look primarily to themselves for the answers to their questions and for the solutions to their problems. They are highly self-responsible. They do not blame others or make excuses when things go wrong. They regard themselves as the primary creative forces in their own lives. They volunteer for tough assignments, and they are willing to take charge when something needs to be done. Intelligence is more than IQ. The fourth success quality identified was that of intelligence. Intelligence seems to be a key requirement for success and self-confidence in any field. However, when they looked at this subject, they found that intelligence was not necessarily measured in terms of IQ. Many of the most notable men and women alive today did poorly in school. They got low grades or no grades, and many of them had not completed university or even high school. One gentleman in the study could not even read or write, and yet he had gotten all the way through university by covering it up and getting others to do his assignments for him. Income and IQ. In a recent survey in New York, 1,000 adults were selected at random and tested for IQ. It was found that between the person having the highest IQ and the person having the lowest IQ, there was a difference of only 2.5 times. But between the person earning the greatest amount of money and the person earning the least amount of money, there was a difference of more than 100 times the income. And the person earning the most was by no means the person with the higher IQ. How is intelligence defined? If intelligence is not necessarily IQ, grades, or years of schooling, what is it? In my estimation, intelligence is really a way of acting. If you act intelligently, you are intelligent. If you act stupidly, you are stupid, regardless of your IQ or your education. Smart people take the actions necessary to get the results they want. They are effective in whatever situation they find themselves in. Intelligence is more a matter of doing the right things rather than doing things right. Intelligence defined. What then is an intelligent way of acting? Here's the answer: an intelligent way of acting is acting in a manner that is consistent with the achievement of your own self-professed goals. Whenever you do something that moves you toward achieving a goal that is important to you, you are behaving intelligently. You are smart. However, whenever you engage in a behavior that moves you away from one of your own goals, you are behaving stupidly. The world is full of people who are behaving stupidly, hour by hour and day by day, because they are doing things that are guaranteed to bring them the opposite results of what they say they really want. Make your actions congruent. If one of your goals is to live to be 80 or 90 years old and have a happy, healthy life, then everything that you do today, in terms of your eating, drinking, exercise, rest, and especially avoiding unhealthy behaviors, is smart. However, if you don't exercise, if you eat the wrong foods, smoke cigarettes, and neglect your health in any way, you are behaving stupidly, by your own definition. If you are in sales or business, and you learn how to manage your time well, so that you get a lot done in the course of your working day, you are acting intelligently. If you do things that undermine your productivity or move you away from your goals, you are acting foolishly, in terms of your own goals. Here is a key insight: everything you do is either moving you toward one of your goals or moving you away from it. Nothing is neutral. Everything counts. Each act you engage in is either a positive act that goes on the positive side of your personal balance sheet, or it is a negative act that goes on the negative side of your personal balance sheet. A great life is simply a life that has far more marks on the positive side than it does on the negative side. This means that an intelligent person is one who does far more things that move him or her toward the things that he or she wants to be, have, and do than an unintelligent person does. Avoid self-delusion. Don't fall into the trap of deluding yourself into believing that only what you want to count counts. Many people think that if they don't count it, it doesn't have any effect on them. They think that if they don't read a book or listen to an audio program, if they don't spend time with their families and play with their children instead of playing on their computers and watching television, if they don't do the things that are leading to a happy, healthy, successful life, then somehow, it doesn't matter. It won't count. The fact is that everything counts. Nothing is neutral. Everything you do or don't do contributes toward making your life a great life or a mediocre life. Everything counts. With regard to your self-confidence, every time you do something that is moving you in the direction of something that is important to you, you feel a winner. However, every time you don't do things that move you forward toward something you want or, even worse, moves you away, you feel like a loser. These behaviors are not only progressive, they are habitual. The more you engage in one behavior or the other, the easier and more automatic that behavior becomes. The more you engage in winning behaviors, the more consistently you act and feel like a winner, the higher will be your self-confidence. And the greater will be your belief in yourself and in your goals. Your actions shape your character. Getting the job done. The final quality of success identified in the study was that of result orientation. This means that you know that you are capable of getting the results for which you are responsible. All highly respected men and women are recognized as being the kind of people who can get the job done. Whatever it is. They are invariably decisive, results-focused, action-oriented people. They are performance-oriented. They have a bias for action and a sense of urgency. They have trained themselves to be extremely capable at doing whatever is required. Bigger and better jobs and responsibilities seem to flow to them. The world tends to step aside and make way for the person who knows what he or she is doing and knows where he or she is going. Get onto the fast track. One of the most intelligent things that you can do is to get better at the most important things you do to get the results that determine your success. better your results, the higher will be your self-confidence and self-esteem. You will be promoted more often and paid more because you will be producing a higher quality and quantity of work. You will receive more and better job offers. You will be immune to economic downturns because your services will be so valuable. By becoming intensely result-oriented, you will guarantee yourself a future of success and prosperity. Do what the top people do. You will notice that everything we have talked about in this book somehow impacts on the 5 qualities for great success in America. I explained earlier about the importance of selecting your values and organizing your entire life around what you believe to be right and good and true. As long as you know that you are living consistently with your highest principles, your self-confidence rests on an unshakable foundation. I have talked throughout this book about the importance of setting clear goals and deciding exactly what you want in every area of your life. You know that big, important, challenging goals, clearly defined, with written plans for their accomplishment, improve your overall self-concept and build your self-confidence. Plan your work and work your plan. When you plan your work and work your plan, and dedicate your energies to completing high-value tasks, you start to make rapid progress toward the attainment of your goals. Your self-confidence goes up every time you resolve to go the extra mile, to do more than you're paid for, to put in more than you take out, to go beyond what is expected of you in your job and in your relationships with others. You feel terrific about yourself. You feel more like a winner. Your level of self-confidence increases, and you feel motivated to contribute even more of yourself to what you are doing. When you dedicate yourself to becoming better and better at performing the important tasks in your life, you feel an enhanced sense of mastery and competence. Your belief in yourself deepens, and your ability to get the results that are important to you increases. The development of excellence or expertise in what you do is a wonderful form of positive knowing that leads inevitably to higher self-confidence. Do your work quickly and well. There is virtually nothing that will bring you the respect and esteem of the people you respect faster than being result-oriented and doing your job in an excellent fashion. In study after study, it's been shown that lasting recognition from the important people in your work only comes from being very good at what you do. It is only excellent performance in your job that raises you above politics and gives you the kind of power and influence that really makes a difference in any organization. Dedicate yourself to continuous learning. Your ongoing commitment to personal and professional development gives you a feeling of continuous growth. Whenever you feel yourself growing as a person, you feel internally motivated and energized to achieve even more. The more you learn, the more you can learn. The more you develop yourself, the more capable you become of further development. By the law of correspondence, as you become better and more capable on the inside, the outer aspects of your life improve as well. As you see and feel your life getting better, you feel more positive and in control of your own destiny. You like and respect yourself more, and your self-confidence increases. Take continuous forward action. Any positive, constructive, and self-determined action that you take in the direction of your dreams improves your self-image and raises your self-confidence. When you discipline yourself to do exactly those things that lead you in the direction of what is most important to you, you develop a sense of strength and self-assurance that is evident to the people around you. Every positive action generates the positive emotion that goes with it. When you keep your thoughts and your actions consistent with your highest aspirations and your most valued goals, you are progressively building the unshakable kind of self-confidence that enables you to accomplish almost anything. Be your own cheerleader. When you get up each morning, say to yourself, "This is going to be a great day." Make the development of a positive personality your overarching goal, and organize all your behaviors in that one direction. Remember, you are demonstrating the highest intelligence when everything you do contributes toward generating the feelings of self-confidence and self-esteem that you desire. Talk to yourself positively all the time. Say to yourself, "I can do it, I can do it." Or say, "I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific." In your conversations with others, keep your words positive and upbeat. Get away from people who complain and criticize. Make it a game to find something nice to say about everyone and everything. Positive words lead to a positive mental attitude. Create a positive suggestive environment around yourself. Create clear mental pictures of the person you want to be and the things you want to have. Read books that expand your mind and increase your abilities. Listen to educational audio programs in your car. Get around positive people and get away from negative ones. Control your mental pictures. Prior to every event of importance, mentally rehearse and see yourself performing at your best in the upcoming situation. Recall and relive a previous excellent performance. Before falling asleep, think about the things you did right during the day and the things you are going to do better in the days to come. Soak your mind in positive images of you at your personal best. What you see is what you get. Whenever something happens that throws you off balance, stabilize yourself by thinking about your goals. Because of the law of substitution, you can only think one thought at a time, and if you think about your goals, your mind will instantly become positive again. Make a game of rising above the petty frustrations of people and traffic and unexpected setbacks. Say to yourself, what can't be cured must be endured. Get back to thinking about your goals and about what you can do, right now, to move toward them. Develop discipline and courage. Whenever you have the choice of doing what is fun and easy rather than what is hard but necessary, force yourself out of your comfort zone in the direction of your dreams. Consciously resist the temptation to go easy on yourself. Remember that the comfort zone is the great enemy of human performance and human potential. It is only in the areas of challenge and risk that you force yourself just beyond what is comfortable and easy for you, that the possibilities of success await. Each act of courage and boldness on your part not only builds additional courage and boldness, but it also builds your self-confidence. The more often you dare to go forward, even in the face of uncertainty, the more likely it is that this type of courageous behavior will become a habit for you. You can gradually act yourself into feeling unafraid in almost all situations. There will very little that you won't risk or try. You will develop such confidence in yourself that you absolutely believe in your ability to succeed, even against difficult odds. Because success is based on the law of averages, you will ultimately succeed and succeed greatly. Take excellent care of yourself. Be sure to take good care of yourself physically, every hour and every day. Eat the right foods, drink lots of fluids, get lots of sleep, and exercise regularly. If you are not happy with your physical appearance, go to work to improve it. Set a series of goals to be at your perfect weight, to wear the ideal clothes for you, and to be perfectly groomed in every respect. Your self-confidence is strongly affected by your self-image. Your self-image, on the other hand, is largely determined by the way you think that other people see you. When you work hard on yourself and take the time to produce an image that you know is attractive to other people, you feel wonderful about yourself and your self-confidence goes straight up. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. Your main job is to decide where it is you want to go and then make a plan to get there. Speak up with confidence and clarity. In your conversations with others, be sure to speak up clearly and express yourself openly and honestly. In one-on-one conversations, in meetings, or with groups, the more competent you are at speaking out, the more competent and more confident you will feel. If shyness is a problem for you, set it as a goal to get over it. Take a Dale Carnegie course on human relationships or join Toastmasters and learn to speak on your feet. Either one, or both, will make you a far more positive, outgoing, and self-confident person. Practice no-limit thinking. You can develop unshakable self-confidence if you really want to, and if you put your mind to it, you can develop within yourself any personality characteristic that you really want. You're always free to choose everything you are, and everything you become is under your own control. The final key to self-confidence was put forth by Dorothea Brande in 1935. When she said, "The high road to success is to act as if it were impossible to fail, and it shall be." The real difference between the winners and losers in life is the difference between taking action and making excuses. It is between the people who do and the people who talk about doing. It is between the movers and shakers and those who just watch the world go by. Perhaps your greatest responsibility to yourself is to become a person of action to act yourself into feeling the emotions that are consistent with high performance. Your primary job is to make any effort, overcome any obstacle, and scale any height to become the dynamic, unstoppable, irresistibly self-confident person that you are capable of becoming. When you have developed in yourself this unshakable, irresistible quality of self-confidence, everything else will be possible for you. Action exercises. 1. Resolve today to act as if you had all the self-confidence in the world. Say what you think, ask for what you want, and persist until you succeed. 2. Write down your 3 most important goals in life right now. Then, write down 3 steps you could take to achieve each of these goals, and take immediate action on at least one step. 3. Identify the 3 most important results you achieve in your work, and resolve today to work on those activities most of the time. 4. Create a clear mental picture of yourself performing at your best. Calm, confident, and optimistic, and replay this picture over and over throughout the day. 5. Dedicate yourself to continuous personal and professional improvement, getting better every day. 6. Accept 100% responsibility for everything you are today, and for everything you become in the future. Refuse to blame anyone for anything. 7. Resolve today that you will never give up, that you will persist over all obstacles until you succeed in creating the wonderful life that is possible for you. Good luck.
This is Brian Tracy book titled The Power of Self-Confidence. Dear members of the Yeez Media family, we sincerely hope that you are happy with the story. Give us credit for your sacrifice of time and follow up. Stay safe until we come with the narration of the book in the next part. Be the best you can be. Thank you.